Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting but sad edition of Cowboys Overtime here on StarTelegram.com, brought to you by who? Window Nation. I am Fort Worth Star-Telegram columnist Matt Kingle, joined by my good friend, Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. Clarence, looks like you've moved. Describe to me what we see in that beautiful background. That does not look like Clarence E. Hill Jr. Manor. What's going on there?
You know, it was my Father's Day gift from my 19-year-old. Now, I just want to let you know, Father's Day is, all my kids are different. They all love me, and it had an interesting Father's Day. My son called me 3 times, FaceTimed me 3 times. He didn't come visit me, but he called me 3 times.
Very nice.
My oldest daughter texted me early in the morning from D.C., Happy Father's Day, and can we do a reverse Happy Father's Day, and can you send me money? and then later on, she texted me frantically, can you read my law school essay? I'm like, I'm off. It's Father's Day. Well, then you got time to read it. I'm off, okay? But my youngest, my 19-year-old, who everybody says is my favorite, and I said, well, you know, we were in the house together for 4 years. Everybody was gone. It was just me and her for the last, from our freshman year to senior year. So we bond, we're close, whatever else. I love all my kids. She said, Dad, I want you to leave the house from 6 o'clock and don't come back till midnight. And she went and revamped my whole office area, living area, and decorated with pictures, and bought me a desk and bought me a burnt orange chair and color coordinated and got Texas stuff and Omega stuff and Star Telegram stuff, and got all the kids on the wall so I can do podcasts and do videos and work in this confined area. Of course, it's also, she doesn't want me working at the coffee table. She doesn't want me working at the dining room table. This is my space.
So what she's done is, if I read this right, she basically created like a little prison for you to stay in.
There you go. I'm glad you. She said this. I said the whole house. No, this is your space. Like the whole house is my space. No, right. This is your space. I don't want you. I don't want your stuff. I don't want any cowboy papers anywhere else but right here.
So, but this is your house, the one that you pay for.
Right.
She lives there for a couple months out of the year because she goes to Rice. Couple months out of the year. But we're in June, so she's at home. And right now, what she has done on Father's Day is to push you off into the corner, Brittany Griner style.
There you go.
You can get out when she wants you to get out.
Yes.
And she backdoored it by saying, Happy Father's Day, Dad. I love you.
She's a genius. She's a
well
stinking
played.
genius.
And I'm guessing you paid for all this too.
According to her, she used her paycheck to pay for it, but I pay for the gas. I pay for all her meals. You know,
that was a good one. That was very clever. One of my favorite. I've told this story a few times. When we used to cover, this was when your children were living with you,
right? And
we were in a couple. It was after the game,
right?
And I think it was your oldest. She would blow you up on your phone.
Yeah. Oh my God!
And it would not matter until you answered. You text, phone calls. It didn't matter.
Listen,
I don't know how you didn't
I tell the story that my children, or at least I don't know if it's some innate women. I don't want to listen. The women lobby don't come at me, but they just, something about them is like a jealous ex-girlfriend or whatever else. They will blow my phone up and call me back to back until I answer. Like, I'm calling, you're going to answer me. I don't care what you have going on in your life.
It's not as important as you reading my law school essay
or whatever.
Doing like
it's you watch the game and they will blow me up on deadline until I pick up the phone. You're answering my phone call. I am calling. Pick up the phone. I said I cannot. I pray for your future boyfriends. Because if you don't answer the phone, you're gonna get it. And my youngest, she's on me. Get up! You need to walk. You need to drink more water. And she's fussing at me to drink. You know, I care about your health. You know, drink more water. And I say, you're nagging. That's why I'm single.
You'll notice right now I'm being very quiet.
I like peace.
Yeah, and this will probably be the best segment we do on this show because there's not a lot to talk about the Cowboys. And right now, this amazing run that we've experienced here in the last 2 months, of the local teams going way deep into the playoffs is over. The Dallas Mavericks ran into the best team in basketball in the NBA Finals, and they get their butts kicked like everybody else did against the Boston Celtics and lose in the finals in 5 games. 5 games that really weren't that close. This was not a close series. This was an absolute laugh or joke. I think right away when the Mavericks won the Western Conference Finals against the Minnesota Timberwolves, I thought they could beat the Celtics.
A lot of people thought that. A lot of people thought that.
Because I thought
a lot of national people thought that.
I know, and then when I looked at it, they're not better than Boston. They're just not. Now I could not have seen what was coming that came down the pike. I did not think that their reserve players and their complementary players would be reduced to nothing.
Right.
I did not think Daniel Gafford was going to disappear. I did not think P.J. Washington was just going to be nothing.
Not standing on business. Not standing on business. Standing on business and not standing on business. And Kyrie was awful in Boston.
He was terrible.
There was so much talk about this being the best backcourt ever, and Kyrie was awful in Boston. And the thing about there's so much, it's a funny thing because there was so much attention on Mavs defense. It was their offense that let them down. They did not score.
They didn't score. They did
not score.
They didn't hit 100. And we'll talk about Luka here in a minute. But when we look at this team, they got through Minnesota. They killed Minnesota.
Yeah.
They really killed Oklahoma City. That series was not close. And then in the first round against the Clippers, that wasn't really close. And I know this, right? This happens a lot. When the team that gets to the finals loses, there is some thought, well, are they really that close? Because in the NBA, a lot of times, the team that finishes second, they're really not that close to finishing first. And when I look at the Mavericks, I'm like, I can see how that, and that argument's come around. They all do.
Oh, when Phoenix got there a couple of years, we thought the Phoenix was coming back, and they haven't.
When they had Chris Paul?
Yeah, Chris Paul. Yeah, so they thought they were coming. Chris Paul thought I can get used to this. He ain't been back since.
No, when I look at this, but when I look at the Mavericks, I think the only guy that really concerns me is just Kyrie Irving, and that's because of his age. I think they're in a great window for the next couple of years, but my concern is just Kyrie Irving and his age. Do you think, looking at the top 8 teams in the NBA, because that's now that's what we're looking at. We're looking at 8 teams. Do you think the Mavericks can get back next season?
Oh, I certainly I do. And I think, and we're gonna move on to Luka, but what frustrates me, and I hate this about sports media, and it's part of the getting on.
You mean the business that you're in?
Yeah. No, I'm not in that business. Can I have fun on Twitter? And I mess with LeBron fake, so I respect LeBron's game. Okay.
How could you not?
I have fun with Laker fans, and you do. No, I don't do the same thing. It just seems to me that, and we talked a little bit about it last week with the Stars. Is that when you lose, everything you've done has been forgotten, and it happens a lot with Dak, and the notion that. Forget what the Mavs, people have forgotten what the Mavs did to the Clippers, what they did to Oklahoma City, what they did to Minnesota. Now as they get to the finals, they're not that close. They beat everybody.
They beat everybody.
And that would put them apart. Yeah, to say that, and we can move on to Luka because I think it's part of the whole.
Well, no, thing. When you talk about close, what's the one thing? What's the one thing that when you watch that series? Let me ask. What's the one thing when you watch that series? You're like, oh my God. If they don't address this, they ain't getting back here.
Well, I mean, they need more shooters, but what they also need is more experience. And my point is this: Boston was in the conference finals 6 of the last 8 years. There was a referendum. One reason why people picked the Mavs because people didn't trust Tatum. They didn't trust Boston because they hadn't won it.
So it was a valid point.
Well, it was a valid point because they hadn't won it. And so now these are all valid points of the Mavericks because they hadn't won it. But it takes time. People act like you're just supposed to show out. The NBA, you don't show up and win. You got to go through some stuff.
Well, and even if you go back,
some stuff.
Well, but I mean, we got to backdate this. When we evaluate these eras, I think for a lot of us who are 45 and up, we remember, well, Magic got there and won. Yeah, he did. Bird got there and won. Well, they did, but the league was so much different then. Jordan, it took Jordan.
Right.
right?
Outside
And
of
a lot
Magic
of
and
great.
Bird, they didn't though. Yeah, it was only Magic and Bird. And Bird didn't win his first year. Magic won his first year because Magic beat the Sixers their first year. Bird didn't get to the finals. He won MVP. But
No, I'm thinking when they got to Houston, they beat Houston in '81.
right.
But you're
But
right. That first year, Philly got it.
yeah, it was Magic. But what I'm saying is, yes, Jordan went through stuff. Everybody goes through. So you have to go through something to win, and it's a process. LeBron's been swept out. Shaq has been swept out the playoffs more than anybody. And so to sit up here and say you got to be for you, and so as we move on to Luka, and there have been so many people taking referendums on Luka's play and career and who he is and being a loser. You're going from Windhorst to Shady McCoy and everybody else. But it's out there. But my point, even Windhorst. I mean, listen, criticize Luka's game, criticize what he does. Don't call him a loser. There's a winners over there, losers. I mean, that's too. That's
no, but that's just silly.
But that's where we are. Okay.
I know,
and so ever since the loss, like Mike Greenberg on Twitter today, on his show today, was listen. Which young superstar is going to win a title next? And he listed Ant, he listed Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he listed 4 of the guys before he got to Luka. Now, why is Luka 4th on this list? Why is Luka 4th?
Okay. Well, was he ranking them in descending order?
Yes. And why is Luka 4th? Because he just lost, even though he beat all these other guys that are first and second. It makes no sense. So we spend so much time, all these shows spend so much time talking about the loser instead of talking about what Boston did to win.
Well, we're talking about here's why. Because
I'm just talking about these now.
No. But I think something. Look, I've done that briefly. You've done it. I get it. You got to play the hits. It's a stupid model, but it's what it is. And if you go down that rabbit hole, you can get really angry really quick. You're like, why are we talking about this? Shady McCoy's a joke, but he drives it. He moves the needle. Kendrick Perkins sometimes does the same thing, and I get the job. Stephen A's great at it. I mean, I don't watch it. Skip Bayless is obviously really good at it. It's just nonsense because I think if you look at Doncic, they're doing it because he moves the needle, right?
Wait,
and there's this idea here. Kenny, go ahead and throw this up because we're going to talk about Luka. What can he learn? There's only like a reader brought this up to me and I hadn't thought about it. So Luka's a pinata right now. Luka clearly was playing hurt a lot in those playoffs. You know who didn't play hurt? They sat him down. Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler, Tyrese Halliburton. I think Jalen Brunson.
Now got hurt.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit there and question Giannis, Dame Lillard. I'm not going to sit there and question the professionalism, the care, or the sincerity that those guys didn't want to play. I'm not. I don't think Brunson's mailing it in. I don't think Tyrese, none of those guys is mailing it in. But Luka played hurt. The thing that I brought up about when I watch him, when I sit there and think what he's got to learn, and certainly we've talked about his relationship with the referees has got to change. I mean, he's whining. I mean, it's just counterproductive. And the best player in the NBA can't get DQ'd. He can't foul out in Game 3 when the game's close, and he did, like he did in Boston against Boston. The part that concerns me about Luka, it's not his professionalism. It's none of that other stuff. I think he's carrying too much weight. Now, I realize for someone who's a sports journalist like I am, just some guy watching on the sidelines, who the hell are you to comment on a professional athlete's physique? It's a totally fair point. My concern is that is a big dude. And if you're going to try to play 78 games and then another 28 in the playoffs, you just got to take care of your body better. And I realize where that's coming from. Anybody would sit there and say, dude, you shut the hell up. You're not a pro athlete. I'm not. But I think anybody common sense wise would look at all these guys of this era. LeBron is the outlier. Would look at him and say, guys, they're carrying so much muscle now. And when I look at Luka, that's a big guy. He hits the deck a lot, and the floor is going to win. Even Jason Kidd has said that. And that's my big thing.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And again, that's part of the growth. But he's still a young man. He's had so much success early that's part of the maturation. Yes, he's going to get better. He's going to take things. He's been, a 4-time, 5-time first all the NBA, all of this stuff. He's got all these accolades, finished top 3 in MVP voting. This is just another carrot for him to pursue, and he's going to take stock in what he needs to do. Certainly he's pushed
When
back
you
on.
watch
He's
him,
pushed back on the conditioning. Because he's been great. And there are people, well, look what he's doing. Well, now why do you play? You play to win titles.
well, when
What
you
do you
see
need
him
to do
play,
to win titles?
but when you see him play, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Because when I watch him play, a lot of times he looks wiped out, dead.
Well, I mean,
December, January, February.
So did Jokic. Okay, some people, so did Earl Campbell. Yeah, Jokic looks.
Well, I'm talking like beat up.
Well,
Like Jokic didn't look beat up.
Right, no, but yeah, Lucas handles the ball, but he was playing through some injuries, and I think that's part of it. And you talk about those guys had leg injuries. I think he had like a chest injury or something like that. What you can play through isn't hurt your legs the same, or his knees not with some of those other guys
with a knee.
Yeah,
he had a knee
so again, all of that, he looks wiped out. You're gonna play a long season. You're gonna play. With during also with the European team, European team, in the Olympics, you have to take all that into account, and I think these are learning lessons. I mean, he's 26 years old. They got to the finals. They've been to the Western Conference Finals twice since he's been here. They're on the brink. They're hanging around the rim, as Jerry said. Okay,
they're right.
They're hanging around the rim, and they're going to do things to improve this team, bring people on to help him. They might get Bronny James. Bronny James. Bronny comes, LeBron
for you.
LeBron. I'm joking. If Bronny comes, LeBron might come. Okay, But anyway, I mean, they're gonna do some things to improve this team.
If you could go out, last one question, we'll go and we'll duck out here for the break. If you could address one position right now for that team, what would it be?
I mean, they need another three. I mean, they need a real three. I mean, I love PJ, but he's not a starter. Or PJ or DJ, one of those guys. They need a scorer who you can count on. Those are more sub guys than starters.
Yeah, I think they need Drew Holiday. And they've been loving on him for years, and they never could get him. Boston got him. Boston kicked their butt. Okay, we got more to talk about here on Cowboys Overtime. But first, let's hear from our friends at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no interest payments for 60 months, 5 full years. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you, Window Nation, for riding with us, riding with us here. Pause. Riding with us all season long, all year long here on StarTelegram.com. Talk a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys briefly. They are in their off mode of off season. All the while, other teams are doing things to address their salary cap and their roster. Jerry Jones said a while back, we're going to wait for the leaves to fall on some other contracts before we do anything with our star players who are due for extensions. We have seen all of East Texas's trees fall down, the equivalent of, as other contracts are being doled out. Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings got $3.8 billion recently, which should affect Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. And most recently, the Jacksonville Jaguars gave quarterback Trevor Lawrence $48.3 billion. Okay, we talked about the CeeDee thing. Nothing, they're not going to do anything. The Cowboys are not going to do anything until somebody holds a shotgun to their head and says, yeah, you might want to do this. Clarence, Trevor Lawrence's contract, that's going to have some consequences. Should we expect Dak Prescott will be a $60 million a year quarterback? Yes or no?
I don't know if he's going to be $60 million. And
that was a yes or no. And you said, I don't know.
There's never a yes or no.
Yes,
never a yes or no.
Yes,
I mean, he's going to be 55 plus. How about that?
So that's a no. He won't get 60, but 55 plus.
Yeah, he'll get 55.
Did you kill a bug?
Something was flying in front of me. Yeah, I think he gets it. I think, and I
55
think
plus.
I think yes. I mean, that's the baseline. 55 is the baseline. I mean, you're not, that's what it is. And it's Cowboys' own fault, but it's 55 is the baseline of what it is. But what are you shaking your head for?
I'm shaking my head for it. You said it's the Cowboys' own fault, And if you talk to, you've done it, you've talked to these guys more than I have, and I've asked them a lot. They will sit there later and admit, well, we shouldn't have waited, right? And they still do it.
Well, the thing what bothers me, and which is a disservice to fans, when the Cowboys signed Dak 4 years ago, it was with the understanding that we're going to re-sign him. And that's why the final year of the deal has such a big cap charge. We're going to re-sign him. You know, it was a 4-year deal, 160 with the final year with a $59 million cap hit. That means that we have to address this deal going into the last year so we won't have to deal with this $59 million cap hit. That's been on the table from day one.
3 years, right?
That's been on the table from day one. They should not be at this point understanding that they have to address Dak's deal and did not do it. And now you're at this point where you got Dak, CeeDee, and Micah all coming up at the same time. We knew this. That's what's on the table. That was the understanding. When we signed him in 2020, we're going to re-sign him and get this done. If he the quarterback who we think he is, and
did you believe them when they said it? Did you believe them that they would actually handle it as opposed to being where they are now? Did you buy it?
I bought it because that was the plan all along. And Dak is, and outside of winning a playoff game, he's lived up to his bargain. And you can say what you want about Dak. The last 4 years of Dak has been the best of Dak. If he gives you 4 more years of the last 4 years of that, you can live with that. Now you have to get better in the playoffs, but the last 4 years, he's been better the last 4 years than he was the first 4 years.
There's no doubt. And the killer caveat to that is in the playoffs he has not played well, and he knows it. And he hasn't ducked it, he hasn't denied it, he owns it. Fine, but you know, Stephen really. He said it. He's like, we've done, and they've done everything necessary or that they can do in a regular season. No, I'm talking about accomplishments. And
regular season. Right.
We're like, the only thing we're missing is January. Now that's a big miss. But the thing that I keep coming back to in my head when I think about this, is there any reservation or hesitation that they might be having, Clarence, to say, you know what? Let's just ride this out. And if we don't get January done the way we want to this time, maybe we just go back to the drawing board and see.
I mean, I think that's a logical thing that fans want to see, and that's what they're just.
It's not necessarily what fans want to see, Clarence. I keep thinking maybe Stephen Jones is actually doing this.
I don't think that the Cowboys ever want to go 4-12 or 4-13. I don't think that they want to blow it up. And to me, it's just like with these other deals. Why would you sign CeeDee and Micah if you're going to blow it up? You know, to me, you know, you have this deal with CeeDee, and at some point you got, and you already want to pay CeeDee, and you got offers on the table to pay CeeDee, not necessarily what Jefferson's getting, but you all offers on the table. Even if you pay CeeDee $32 million, why would I invest $32 million in CeeDee and not know who's quarterback going to be next year?
Who's the Minnesota Vikings quarterback?
Sam Darnold. They drafted J.J. McCarthy. But they
hang on, time out. This is an answer that I wasn't trying to set you up. I forgot who it was legitimately. Because the same question came up about Justin Jefferson. Why is Justin going to stay there?
Because he's all they got. He's all they got.
And you know what? At some point, an NFL team is just going to do that. Like, well,
but
we got nothing else, so we're going to go bury this guy in cash, even though he's got to take it because this is his payday, and he's going to play with two stiffs.
But they do have but they do.
And J.J. McCarthy's going to suck as an NFL quarterback.
We don't know that, but okay, you do. That's fine. You said the same thing about a few other quarterbacks that have been okay.
And I was right about all of them because the odds are I'm going to be right about assessing quarterbacks. Go ahead.
You're not. Anyway,
yes, go ahead.
The bottom line is they do have a plan at quarterback. Okay, right now the Cowboys, they have a plan. They have a first round pick. They have a plan. To sign CeeDee and not have a plan for the future is a different thing. You don't invest. It's a waste of investment dollars to not have a quarterback, know who your quarterback is going to be, to sign CeeDee for that type of money to maximize your investment dollars. That's what I'm saying.
How many years have you covered the Cowboys? 20-some?
Yes.
You are
longest tenure. All of that.
You're Obi-Wan Kenobi when it comes to covering this team. How many times, even in this conversation, have you introduced rational, logical thinking when it comes to a personnel decision, and then they don't do it, or they do the opposite, or they do something that is so far off the grid that you would look at and say, "What are you doing?"
again, I really think that, and you asked me what I believe that they're going to sign CeeDee and Dak.
Okay,
Now,
so one last question about this. Let's just say, purely for the sake of discussion, Clarence, because this is on the horizon.
Yeah.
We have to acknowledge it. Jerry Jones says, Steven, I'm not doing anything anymore with the team. It's yours. Good luck. Bye. I'll stay in here, be a fan, wave a pennant, and count my money and be happy. I love you. Good luck.
Yeah, that's never happening.
Well, it will one day. God will have a say.
Well, you said Jerry says I'm a step aside.
Yeah, just let me have. Come on, I don't want to go too morose here. So, Steven said, if Steven was unilaterally in control, would he have made these moves and these decisions? Let's just Dak. Do they sign Dak 3 months ago? Does this get handled, or is he? We'll just do it. We do it kind of like his dad.
Well, I don't see. It's hard because it takes two to tango. Okay.
So you think some of this is agent driven?
Yes, most definitely. The same with CeeDee. I mean, the idea that CeeDee could sign, no, his agent was waiting for Justin Jefferson. They were not signing before, so it wasn't just the Cowboys. The agent was waiting as well. This certainly takes two to tango, and in both situations, these agents are smart. They know the market. They talk to other agents, so they're waiting as well. It's not that the Cowboys can unilaterally say, "I'm signing," unless you're just going to blow them out of the water. And I don't know if anybody saw $35 million come from Justin Jefferson. When
not from the Vikings for all the
for
reasons.
anybody, no one's even gotten that. I mean, that's $5 million more than the next guys already got.
I don't know why they did it.
Nobody saw that.
I don't know why they did it. I mean, good for Justin, but I don't know why they did it.
So he's just up the market and what it is. So Steven's he's gonna be more certainly foundational. He's certainly gonna be, he's not gonna be free spending, and he hasn't been free spending. I think he's part of the reason why the Cowboys don't sign a lot of free agency.
Huge reason.
But
huge reason.
Yeah, certainly a huge reason. But he's also smart, and he's going to. And all of the Cowboys generally sign the guys they want to keep. There's nobody they let go. I don't care how contentious the negotiating was, that they did not ultimately get it done.
We're going to change gears here dramatically. Our last topic here on Cowboys Overtime, Clarence, are going to talk about a guy who is one of the most significant figures in the history of Fort Worth, one of the more important foundational pieces to the sport of basketball in the history of the United States, a man who was a member of the Basketball Hall of Fame and Museum, and one of the more decent men that I have been lucky enough to have had the opportunity to cover. I'm sure, Clarence, you would say the same thing. Fort Worth lost a true icon this week with the passing of former Dunbar Boys basketball coach Robert Hughes. Coach Hughes died on Saturday, or was it Saturday he died? I keep my days confused. At the age of 96, lived 96 years. He lived an amazing life. His life was a mission, and he fulfilled it to a level that I don't think very many people do. I could talk about this guy forever, and I don't know if I could find enough superlatives to list about what this man achieved and how many people he positively affected in his life. It's a true loss, but one that was ultimately inevitable. And his legacy is as secure as anybody I've ever met, because there's a lot of coaches who do it, but they do it for different reasons. He was a coach, he was a teacher, he was a mentor, he was a father figure to so many people, and he truly was the mayor of Stop 6 in Fort Worth, Texas. Clarence, I hadn't seen or talked to him in a number of years, and you know a lot of his former players. I know a lot of his former players. You covered him before I did. What can you say about him? I mean, you and I could talk about this guy forever. Well, what do you remember about working with him, and what do you remember about him in general?
You're making me tear up, and I'm not a guy that I'm just thinking. I guess I feel, tears coming in my eyes just thinking of Coach Hughes and just taking stock and everything. And you just like I've covered Cowboys coaches, I've covered Hall of Fame coaches, I've covered great college coaches, and no one to me it comes close to Robert Hughes and what he means, what he's meant, what he's done for kids. He could have gone to the next level. He wanted to be a high school coach. He wanted to impact those kids in that neighborhood. And I'm talking about there are movies about Coach Carter and all these people who faced gangs, and this guy faced gangs in Fort Worth and told him to get out of his gym and leave his kids alone. This is not the stuff of movies. This is real life stuff. Who Coach Hughes is and what he was, and obviously he's a great champion. Won a lot of games, but I got so many people who called me and talked about the times he filled in as a volleyball coach and won a district title as a district volleyball coach. Kids who called me, and family members called me, friends who called me about him teaching their health class and what type of teacher was. I poured into these individual students. It's just when I first took the Cowboys job, Coach Hughes told me that I got demoted from Dunbar to the Cowboys, and we laughed about it, but he was serious. He felt that strongly about Dunbar and his program and the people covering his program. You talked about certainly you having a relationship with him, and I know every high school reporter, and that's one thing that I love about how we came to this business. And before I became a Cowboys beat writer, I covered high school. The same thing with T.R. Sullivan before us, and Roger B. before us, and certainly you and Eric Serrati and everybody else. We all had to come in contact with Coach Hughes before we took that next level and started covering the pros and these other guys and these so-called greater guys because they were on the pro level. But Hughes has such an impact, and I've been flooded with calls and memories from people from his former players, and so I have my own memories of Coach Hughes, and I got a picture of Coach Hughes and me and Coach Hughes just talking outside of Dunbar, but it's so sad, and obviously 96 he lived a long life, long glorious life, but he was a giant of a man and giant of a figure in Fort Worth, the mayor of Stop 6. He always called himself the ogre of Stop 6 because he ruled with an iron fist. He was a tough disciplinarian, very much a tough disciplinarian on kids, and showed them leadership, showed them accountability, showed them professionalism, was like a second dad to many of these kids, many of these players who didn't have that. And Mike is here.
Sorry, I had a massive technical issue. I could hear all of it, but I could see it.
That's okay. But yeah, he missed.
Well, wait a minute, Tom. I don't want to interrupt you, but this is a hard one because do you have a favorite anecdote or time that you spent with him?
No, like I said, I don't know if you heard me, but when I got the Cowboys beat, he told me I got demoted from Dunbar to the Cowboys.
I love that.
He told me I got demoted from Dunbar to the Cowboys. And I talked to Oliver Miller. I talked to so many different people who talked about Coach Hughes and what he meant and how he represented the city. And Oliver Miller said, he goes everywhere. And then he said, I'm from Fort Worth. He said, did you play for the old man?
Yeah.
I said, no, I played for the other team. But he never beat him. And you
did Oliver Miller never beat Dunbar?
Never beat Dunbar.
Wow,
never beat Dunbar. He was a Southwest.
And the one thing about Dunbar's teams under Hughes, and I knew about him. I knew about Dunbar before I moved here, and that was before the internet. Right. I just knew about Fort Worth Dunbar. I didn't know why. I knew about Fort Worth Dunbar in basketball, and obviously, when I came to learn why, he never had very, very few exceptions.
No NBA talent. Yes, you said he did. He did not have big guys.
He never had big
guys.
Not
have NBA talent. He had small guys. They ran you off the court, but
they could run.
Yeah, never had NBA talent. And that's the thing about this. I was talking to my son. I was arguing with my son because my son knows every damn thing. And I said there's no more important figure in high school basketball in Dallas Fort Worth than Robert Hughes. And he was talking about, well, you got Larry Johnson and all this. I said those are players, okay. But
nobody.
There was no more important figure than it's just a Fort Worth thing. No, it's a national thing.
No,
you got across the nation because there's Baltimore Dunbar had great players. All went to Georgetown, but Fort Worth Dunbar was the greatest Dunbar basketball program ever, and it's the greatest high school basketball program in the state of Texas under Robert Hughes. It's a nationally known program.
When I went to when he was inducted in the Basketball Hall of Fame Museum, I think it was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And I've covered a million things. You've covered a million things. Obviously he was older then, and he had slowed down considerably.
Right.
But you could see how much it meant to him to wear that orange jacket.
No.
You know, he won more games than any other coach who's ever coached boys or men.
Yes.
Any other coach. The only other coach who's won more games, and this is a different rant, is Lita Andrews of Granbury. And Lita's not in the Basketball Hall of Fame, which I've ranted about for years. And it took a while for Coach Hughes to get in. And he got in. And, you know, he had his own theories of why he wasn't in. I didn't agree with him. But, you know, he got in. His family was there. Former players were there. I was so happy to see him get that moment along with Coach, you know, other guys, other luminaries. And I'm like, those guys mean a lot to their families and their communities and all that. But, you know, the one thing that he did, and I hear professionals talk about this, this is a calling, right? I'm a doctor. It's a calling. I'm a politician. It's a calling. No. What this guy did, that was a calling, and he fulfilled it selflessly. And whenever he got in trouble with, the UIL for too many practices or whatever, I'm like, dude, and this was my thought. He wanted to scream, "You have no idea what I'm dealing with."
Right.
I'm opening the gym up so these kids have a place to go.
Keeping kids off the street.
Absolutely.
So that's that. You know, he was a star basketball player, Texas Southern, from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You know, had a chance to play with the Boston Celtics, tore out his knee, went to the military. Okay. Yeah. That military background, he brought that with him. You know, very disciplinary. His stature, stood up straight. I mean, you watch him. He was a proud guy, military strong. He put that in his kids, you know, and so yeah, it was about, you know, when you talk about those practices, it was about winning, but it's also giving those kids something to do. It was also keeping those kids off the street.
Positive,
you know. And I don't know if you heard, you know, I had friends that talked about him teaching their health class and how he poured into them. I had friends talking about, a friend of mine said he coached a freshman volleyball team because somebody got sick and led them to a district title. I mean, everything he did was about excellence.
The other thing too, I saw this. I remember one time he let me, this is like 98, he let me be a fly on the wall on the bus, behind the bench, and in the locker room at a game. And I heard him, oh my God, he tore into those kids.
Right.
Nobody sat there and said, hey, you're not going to talk to me like that.
Right, no.
And, you know, like I had two different thoughts. One, you can coach kids hard. If they know that you've got, if they trust you and you know, or they feel like they love you and you want what's best for them, they'll take it. The parents might have a problem with it, but the kids will take it. Nobody could have questioned that Coach Hughes did anything other than care about those kids and their lives and their well-being. And that legacy is so long and so rock solid, secure. And you look how his children have done and all the stuff. I just, you know, it's sad, but it's also truly, sometimes we hear about this, oh, it's a celebration of life. This is a celebration of a life well lived. And I think all of us can envy and look up to and say, man, I'm really glad I got to know that guy, even for a little bit.
You know, it's funny. I'm glad you got this. Is a great ending point because I wrote a story about him when he first set the record and became an all-time winners coach way back when. And his favorite singer was Old Blue Eyes. Okay, and his favorite line was, "I did it my way."
Yep.
And Robert Hughes, you did it your way.
All right, let's end it there because otherwise you and I will talk about Coach Hughes for another couple of hours. Thank you, Candy, for staying with us and for enduring my technical snafu. The service for Coach Hughes will be on Saturday, June 29th at 6:30 at Wilkerson Grinas.
It's 28th, but yeah.
28th.
I think 28th. That's
Saturday. It's the last Saturday in June, Wilkerson Grinas. Be there to pay tribute.
And it's so fitting because Wilkerson Grinas, where he had his greatest triumph, it is where we get to say goodbye to Coach Hughes.
Thanks, Candy. Thank you, Window Nation. We'll see you next week here on Cowboys Overtime.